Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's assembly. The end of week 33. I can't believe quite how quickly time appears to be going on. In fact, just 1 week now, and then we'll be straight into end of year assessments after the long weekend. And almost finished for the IGCSE students in year 11 and the A-level students in year 12 and year 13. Their assessments are almost finished, and I'm pleased that they all appear to be going very, very well. And I'd like to congratulate them all, obviously, on how well they've done and how they've responded to this entire process. So well done to you guys. Now, this week we've got a busy week, lots of stuff to show you. We're going to start off with 8E's assembly, which is on families, but they're also going to give us a little bit of information about bees because it is International Day of the Bee as well. So after we've seen that, it's going to be a bit of the 8E show today. We also have a news round with what's been going on in the world around us this week. So thank you to 8E for that. Before we then start to look at some of the excellent work which is being produced in different subjects. So we have from music, we have Andre in year 7 who has put together his very own Eurovision tune. We had one last week from a year 9 student. This week it's going to be a year 7 student's turn. We then have 9O, some ICT work where they're going to be talking about the digital divide. Before we then have a look at some artwork, and again 9O, who've been putting together some designs for some sneakers, or sort of trainers as we would call them in the UK. Okay, lots of excellent designs there. Maybe we'll have some people working for Adidas or Nike in the future, who knows. We'll then hear a bit about what the latest house competition is before seeing what the results look like currently, before then moving into the Praise Point certificate and then, of course, celebrating people's birthdays. So that's enough of me talking. We're now going to hand over to 8E. So over to you guys.
Hello everybody, my name is Peter and today I'm going to be going over World Bee Day and family. So, what is World Bee Day? World Bee Day is happening on the 20th of May. It is to focus on the problems that bees are actively facing. To support this cause, you should buy bee products such as honeycomb and plant flowers and plants that can be pollinated on your balcony or garden. What are bees? Bees are insects that are very important for reproduction of plants. Bees have a long, straw-like tongue called a proboscis that allows them to drink the nectar from deep within blossoms. Bees are also equipped with 2 wings, 2 antennae, and 3 segmented body parts, the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. Why do we need bees? Bees pollinate flowers by going into the flower and collecting the nectar, and involuntarily, they get pollen all over themselves. They go to the next flower and collect its nectar as well, and the pollen falls on their body, replacing itself with the second flower's pollen. This process is called pollination, and without it, life on Earth would be strange. Bees also help make 1/3 of our food resources. How do bees reproduce? Bees reproduce how humans reproduce. Sperm from a male drone fertilizes the queen's eggs. When this happens, the queen releases a chemical signal that makes all female workers become sterile. Only the queen can carry offsprings, as the rest of the bees do not have fully developed ovaries. Bees in a hive. There are 3 types of workers that live in the hive: the worker bees, the male drones, and the queen bee. All worker bees are female, and they are the reason why the hive survives. The male drones are possibly the most useless bees in the hive, as all they do is fertilize the queen bee, which later on produces offsprings. Queen bee. The queen bee is the most important bee in the hive, as she is the only bee with fully developed ovaries in the hive, which means that only she can reproduce. Her prime job is to create bees and send out chemical scents to help regulate the hive. 10 interesting facts about bees. Bees have 5 eyes and use the sun to navigate. Bees are insects, so they have 6 legs. Bees fly about 20 miles per hour. Bees have been here for about 30 million years, and numbers of eggs laid by the queen is 2,000 per day. Now I will be going over families. So let's start this off with something sad, the 2020 to the 2021 crisis. Since the pandemic happened in 2020 and 21 families have broken apart and were forced to stay home. As the vaccines were created, people are starting to reunite again. Relationships with your family. To be happy with your family, you obviously need to have a happy relationship. You can achieve this by bonding with them. You can play basketball with your dad, or help your mom cook and help her around the house. You can go to a trip or the park, or even just watch TV with them. Ways to communicate. Some ways that families reunited after this dark pandemic was over video chats and phone calls. And you might think that this wouldn't really matter, but talking with siblings, grandparents, or any other relatives will open new opportunities to meet and find new information about them. What does family mean to you? Family means having someone to love you unconditionally in spite of you having your shortcomings. Family is loving and supporting one another, even though it's not easy to do so. It's being the best person that you could be in so many ways to inspire and love your loved ones. Now obviously each person interprets it differently, whether you're in a close relationship or further apart. Then there is the close family, such as your mom and dad, and the long family such as your cousins, aunts, and uncles. How to tell if you're in a toxic relationship with your family? Sometimes families might not always be supportive. There are times where they can be very toxic. These are the signs that your family might be only making you feel worse. If your family constantly does any of those things, then ways that can possibly be helpful to you are trying to stop them by saying please, set and enforce boundaries, or be mindful of what you share with them, or trying to just talk it out. The family's unwritten rules. Being in a family is not easy. Between juggling your parents and nieces might be hard. You might need to remember that they are still your family. They still cared for you when you were younger, so you should care for them in return, even though it costs you another slice of that zakuska.
So, well done, AT. Thank you very much for that assembly. So, as I mentioned previously, we're now going to move into another AT production with News Round. So obviously another action-packed week of news and events taking place in Romania and around the world. So every week we obviously like to show you some of the excellent work that is being produced by your colleagues and in the various different subjects that we teach at IBSB. So as I outlined in my introduction, we're now going to hand over to the Creative Arts team as well as ICT for this week's gallery of excellent work.
Hey you, what are you doing? Wanna do something else? Hey you, come on here, let's do something else. I say no, just continue my path, going just nowhere on a bus, and I feel relaxed. I have nothing to do, I have a free day. But I don't know if I do the right thing. good. You know that I do what I want. I'm not gonna do what you want me to do, 'cause I'm free. And nothing gonna stop me passing you. Now stop. I don't care what you say, 'cause you just a man that is trying to gain my attention. And I give you the attention. Bum, 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 bum. Now stop, 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 now stop. That is all it Now I don't care what you say, not my boss, so shut your mouth. Go away. Leave me alone in peace and darkness. I continue my path, going just nowhere. I continue my path, going just nowhere. Free day. What is digital divide? Digital divide is the gap between those who have access to digital devices and the internet and those who do not. The difference. It was found out that nearly half of U.S. households with incomes below $30,000 a year do not have access to high-speed internet at home, while nearly 1/3 do not own a smartphone. This makes it even harder for poorer families to catch up financially and professionally, with new computers and automation increasingly permeating not only manufacturing but also services. Those with less familiarity with or access to the internet, computers, and smartphones are left at considerable disadvantage, while those fortunate have no issues. With this pandemic, most things have changed to online. From schools to job, everything is now on screen, and that has clearly affected those that do not own devices. Kids have not been able to learn, and parents have not gotten income with the lack of working. This has become a problem now more than ever.
Are poor people at a disadvantage? The internet is an amazing thing, full of uses, but at the same time it creates another thing which creates a divide. It's estimated that around 50% of people do not have internet access in 2019. So this creates an obvious divide, but are they at a disadvantage? People who don't have access to the internet are less likely to be informed about the news, since they might not be able to look up all the points of view. But on the other hand, people without internet do not have the worry and anxiety that can be created by social media. There's also the fact that people without internet do not have access to search platforms such as Google, which is a great way to learn new things. A recent example of the digital divide is the pandemic. It's estimated that around 24 million Americans do not have access to broadband internet. So this leaves many students left behind and not being able to attend online school. And this could lead to them falling behind in their classes.
Why is there a digital divide? Looking at an overall picture, our world is formed out of two types of countries: LICs, so low-income countries, and HICs, high-income countries. These two categories are one of the main causes for the digital divide. While HACs have access to the internet as they can afford electronic devices and provide them for schools and offices, LICs struggle with faulty governments, war, natural disasters, and so much more, therefore having no money left for expenses and luxuries such as computers and/or phones. Another thing that creates the digital divide is a language barrier. This can be seen as a standalone example, but it can also be related to HICs and LICs. Most websites, videos, and overall resources on the internet are in English. LICs usually have poor education systems and/or citizens with no possibility to afford English tutors. Sometimes people can't afford education at all. This means that even if people in LICs would have access to the internet, they'd have a hard time finding what they need in their first language.
Causes, effects, and solutions. Causes: factors such as low literacy and income levels, geographical restrictions, lack of motivation to use technology, lack of physical access to technology, and digitally illiteracy contribute to the digital divide. Effects: the main effects are lack of communication and isolation. People in remote areas who do not have access to the internet are disconnected. Solution: barrier to studies and knowledge, accentuates social differences, gender discriminations. Solution: here are the four principles recognized as possible solution to the digital divide: economic equality, social mobility, economic growth, and democratic organization. Equal access to the internet goes hand in hand with equal economic and social conditions that countries must ensure for their citizens.
So, thank you very much to all of you whose work has been displayed in this week's gallery. Always say every week just how good some of the work which is being produced by students is, and this week has been no exception. Now, there has been no house competition for a while, but we have got one coming up, and Mr. Varden has placed this onto the house Google Classrooms. Basically, what you really need to be doing is revising. So you've got exams coming up or assessments coming up. What he wants to see is some of the best pieces of revision that you've actually managed. So if you post what you've done, whether it be mind maps or other creative means of revising, up onto your house Google Classroom, then you will win, of course, win points for your house. Now, in terms of the house points themselves, let's have a look and see where we're at. So, again, Transylvania, it appears that they're sort of stretching their lead slightly. It looks like it's about 400 points now over Montaigne, and Dobroja, unfortunately, are still lagging up behind. So we have 10,435 points for Transylvania, 9,977 for Montaigne, and 8,139 for Dobroja. So it looks like it might possibly be Transylvania who take home the honours again this year. So in terms of praise points this week, congratulations to Natalie for her first tutor certificate, so well done to you. Well done to Petru, so it truly is the AT show this week. Well done to you for your first tutor certificate. We then have Antonia in 9.0, your first tutor certificate, so again, well done to you. And then Raresh in 8D has managed to achieve his second tutor certificate, so well done to you, Raresh. Now, in terms of birthdays this week, is a little bit quieter, so we are wishing a happy birthday to Sophia in 8E, so happy birthday to you for the 26th of May. And to Emma, whose birthday is the day after, so Emma in 10V, happy birthday to you for the 27th of May. So, last thing it leaves me to say is to wish you all a great weekend, and we will see you all again on Monday.